That thing had 9 lives. She just spent them all. Woo!
Got another L8 error on a different unit. This school here hasn't had an issue of having a lot of compressor changeouts. We've had issues, but they've just been mechanical as far as like reversing valves. We had an EEV actually leak, had to be replaced. But I wanted to show kind of like the first steps of checking out an error when you get an error. So the error we have is an L8, we know that, but I want to show how to check it on the board and decide which side it's on, either the master side or the slave side, and determine which side's the master if it's not written somewhere. You also just need to double check. When you see the lights in there, you'll see the slave side will only have a green light normally, and then your master side H3P will be lit up, and the H2P is lit up right now because there's an error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into monitor mode, and since it's dark out here, I'm going to go ahead and take the cover off so I have easier access to it, because when it's really bright outside, you need this cover on so it'll shade the board so you can see what's going on. So let me get the board off here and then get set up, and I'll show you how to put into monitor mode and to verify where your error is, what your error is, and the next steps to take care of it. So what you do when you go into monitor mode, you just press BS1 button one time. There's two different modes. There's monitor mode and there's setting mode 2. Setting mode 2 is like the one you go into evacuation mode, additional charge mode, emergency mode, things like that. But this one you just press it one time. Now I got to hit it 14 times because I want to get the status of the latest error, which I know is an L8 from the navstat downstairs, but this here will confirm it. And if you don't have access to the navstats, you have to go this way. But we're going to number 14, contents of malfunction, the latest one. So hit BS2 14 times. And then BS3. We check the last 4 lights, 4 through 7, and we have 5, 6, and 7 are flashing. So then you have a cheat sheet here, and I have an L8, and this one only goes to JC, so I have to go to the next page. Okay, there's L8. Now we're looking across, we need L. So all the L's right here would have 5, 6, and 7 would be flashing, which we have. So we know it's an L error, that's confirmed. Now we hit BS2 one time for the second digit. Like I said, the last 4, 5, 6, and 7, number 4 is flashing, the rest are blank. They're off. So look at all the L's. Number 2. The last 3 are flashing, and last 3 are off, and the number 4 is flashing. So I go down, look. Okay, there's number 4 is flashing. Last 3 are off. L8. Okay, that's confirmed. Now I'm going to hit BS2 twice, because malfunction 3 for this setting right here is not important. But the master or slave location right now is important for me, so I'll hit BS2 twice. And I need to look at 6 and 7. 6 and 7 will tell me master or slave location. So I have no lights. It's the master side. So this inverter has an issue. I either have a bad inverter board, grounded out compressor, bad bearing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything here now, and you can hit this button to go back to normal, and it's going to, the two lights will come back on showing there's an error. These two right here. H2P means there's an error in the system. So now I've verified my error is an L8 error, and it is on the master side inverter. So now what I have to do is I have to power everything down, pull the wiring off both inverters, and put this in transistor mode check and hook this one up to the inverter board checker first. And then I'll meg ohm the compressor to make sure it's not bad. If I have a meg ohm compressor, then I'll have to check the refrigerant to see if it's acidic. So let me get the panels off and get the power kill to this thing, and I'm going to go ahead and pull the wiring, and we'll set the inverter the transistor checker up. And even though you're not checking the other unit inverter, once the power is off, both units, you can't see the other disconnect from here, but there is voltage on these things, a slight voltage, not a lot, but you have to kill the power in order to take these off. You're going to get shocked. I mean, you can take insulated and do all that, but it's just not worth messing with. So always look at your wiring, your VW and U, and correlate the colors to which one's which. But you have to take them off the inverter when you're testing the other one, because it sends voltage through both boards, and they have to be disconnected. So now I've got my inverter board checker, and I went ahead and put my little cheat colors on here off the compressors: red, white, and black. UV and W. When you take the sound jackets off, the sound blades, open them up, this unit hasn't been running for 2 days because it's been in error. But the compressors are warm, so that tells me my crankcase heaters are working too. Some little things you just pay attention to, you know, when you're messing around with this stuff. Now let me check what mode I've got to be in. I think it's mode 28, but I know 21 is like recovery, and I believe 28 is inverter check, but I've got to check because those numbers can get jumbled up in your mind. You got to do the right one. So let me check the proper setting for inverter board testing. Okay, so I checked it, and it is 28 times. So I'm going to power units up. I'm going to force this guy into, hold the button in until the mode button goes solid. It just did. Now I have to hit this 28 times. Hit return, set, return twice. This thing will eventually send a signal. My board is bad. I'll get a no good. That's telling me it's getting the right voltage and everything right here. So everything's good on the board. It's okay. So now kill the power. It will go out of transistor check mode once the power is killed. The only mode that will not go away, that I am certain it won't go away, is emergency mode. Emergency mode is the only thing you can put this in, that when you kill the power and bring it back up, it will stay in emergency mode. So, pull the thing off here. I got it dead, I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick mag-ohm check on these. Nothing fancy, just take the old cheater M500. It's half time when you get an L8 on here, it's never a grounded compressor. It's always a bearing issue. And they have found out, because we had discussed with the company why are we having so many bearing failures in certain areas, and this has been replaced once before. About 3 years ago. It's got a stem on it. That's one way you can tell. That's a bleeder stem, so the refrigerant pressure doesn't build up. That and the weld on there, you can tell by that weld. But anyway, we asked about all these failures, and we were told, even though you have piping practices you have to follow, they can't babysit instructors. They can't babysit the installers when they put this stuff in. So if you get an installer that does not purge the nitrogen like they should, then what happens is there's a possibility that the carbon is, on all your braze joints, there's an oil filter back in here somewhere. You can't see it from here, but there's an oil filter in there. If that carbon gets built up and gets caught in that oil filter, then what happens is you get a restriction and your oil gets restricted and it can't come back like it should. Your oil return is reduced. So what happens is you start losing your bearings. There is a way to test it. It's almost like a restricted TXV. You have to pretty much put a temperature clamp on one side and on the other and see if you've got a temperature differential. Alright, let's check the good. So electrically the compressor's okay. There's a bearing issue. That's one of the other things you have to check on check the inverter board and check the compressor. Now, W is the black wire. Try not to unbend the wire. You can pretty much, they will fall right back where they need to go. White is your V wire. Here's your V terminal. And then red is your U terminal. See, they pretty much will go back where they need to go. But it doesn't hurt to write it down. And you don't want to get too confident. Even with repetition, you will learn it. But always double check. That one time you get confident and cocky, that's when you make mistakes. These are always fun, getting these back down. Sometimes I have good luck with them, sometimes I don't. Yeah, come on, bad boy. Like a glove. I don't think the other one's in there either. Yep, it's in there. I see another one there. But anyway, I'm gonna get the sound blankets attached back together. I will now that I've verified the compressor mechanically, except for the bearing, is good. As far as electrically, I mean the windings. Verified this is good. What I'll do now, I mean, if I want to, I can go ahead and put this thing in emergency mode and make this thing run and listen to it and see how bad it sounds. Come on, focus. And I'll put it in lockout like a slave side 39 times. I'll put it in lockout and I'll go ahead and start it up. And we'll listen to this bad boy start up and see what happens. So let me get everything buttoned back up. Power back onto these guys. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in mode setting 2. Solid light, 39 times. Now what's going to happen, this unit's not going to be able to run, it's locked out. This is going to have to run. After it decides what it's going to do, since I reset it, if that 2 light comes back on, I'll have to turn all the units off downstairs and back on again. If that has to happen, then I'll just take care of that. But these also have like a plastic cap to go on them right here. They get brittle over time. They get so much heat generated on them, they just fall apart. The fault cleared. I started to turn off all the units remotely, and then I guess the fault cleared on its own. So this thing here ought to start winding up here in a minute, trying to run. And if it's bad, it'll be apparent. There's no you'll hear it. Light is off, so that's just a waiting game. Clamp over here. Valves clicking. Doesn't sound bad, but at 1.7 amps, got a lot of vibration. Standard compressor just kicked on. It'll kick off. Usually kicks on, then runs and kicks off. But I can tell by the vibration it's just bearing. You can't really hear it, but you can feel it. By the time it gets up to the point where it needs a lot of capacity, it probably gets to drawing a lot of amps. So I'm going to go ahead and release the the other compressor. So I just go into monitor mode 2 again, 39 times. Now I will go out of there and I will go in again just to verify, and I'll do 38 times and I'll lock this side out. She's off. This side's gonna run now. Oh. No error. Light's still off. Now what it'll do, it'll shift all the load onto this condenser over here. We'll get 50% capacity, but the way the weather is right now, it'll handle it no problem. If we were in winter time, it would get by. The building is insulated well enough, but it has a tougher time. It seems like cooling load, it has an easier time. There it is in a nutshell, diagnosing the error code on a Daikin unit, some of the steps you have to take in order to do it, and some of the steps you have to take in order to verify a bad compressor and a good inverter board. Now, one of the important things I forgot to mention when you're dealing with work on these things, always keep your panels on the right side. Don't get them mixed up, because if you put a compressor in this one and let's say a year later, within a year later it fails, well, this serial number is going to match this compressor to this unit. So if you cross them and this one, let's say, is out of warranty and hasn't had a compressor failure and your time is up as far as your warranty period, but you give them that model number, it'll never show that you just had a compressor put in. You see what I'm getting at? They have the model number on the panel and on here, so these two numbers should match. Like this one has a last three digits are 776. 776. Matter of fact, I need to take a picture of that right now and call the company that deals with the parts, and I will get a compressor on order. And I think this one had a failure in 2015 under warranty, but it's out of warranty now, so this is going to cost us money now. And so I get, looks like Wednesday I'm going to, this is Monday, tomorrow's supposed to be raining. This will limp by on one condenser until then, but I'm going to go ahead and do this Wednesday because we have no rain, and the temperatures are actually going to coincide a little better. It's going to be like a high of 82 instead of 93, so the recovery will go a little better as well. But I just wanted to put this little addendum on there to always keep your serial numbers with the right condenser for warranty purposes. Thanks again for watching.